Okay, Mr. Booker, you're an airline consultant, and the aspect of compensation is what most of these air travelers are concerned about. Majority don't get compensated, and I'm wondering if they need to be compensated, why are they not getting compensation? And that communication gap is another critical issue. You get a flight will be cancelled or rescheduled, you know, or delayed, and you won't hear any communication. Why do we have that?
Okay, thank you once again. Thank you very much for this question. Yes, compensation has always been an issue because the process of even getting refund will create a lot of delays due to the bottleneck of the processes. Now, don't forget, most of these aviation charges you pay in advance. You already paid this money in advance. So somebody that had bought your ticket 1 week or 2 weeks ago, and there is issue with that flight, already that money has been utilized due to, so you will need, the law says, okay, at least 2 weeks you can give them, but outright cancellation, you have to refund the passenger. But it's not about the refund. When you don't meet up with your responsibility, like transporting that, how much are you going to even compensate somebody to be able to make that person happy? Look at from what one of the passengers says. He has a program. Because of the cancellation, he has to miss that business. How much are you going to pay him to be able to meet up, to be happy? Yes, the procedures are there. NCA has given the guidelines. When you cancel flight, it's automatic refund. But passengers will tell you, all I want to go is, I want to go to my place. That's all. They don't care about the compensation. Now, yes, talking about communication, sometimes the stations are waiting for decisions from the OCC, the Operation Control Centers. Maybe they are trying to look at ways by which they can be able to do something about that delays or cancel. Is there any alternative? What are we going to do? Is the aircraft AOG? If there is AOG, do we get a spare parts that we can quickly, where do we get the spare part? Or how do we take the engineers from that point to where the aircraft is and all these things? These are all processes that will create miscommunication from the stations. So mostly the station managers will just tell you that, sorry, we are trying to resolve this issue. Please give us time, give us 1 hour. You know, we'll get back to you and all these things. But passengers will continue to agitate and say, look, tell us something, tell us something. At that time, the station don't have the correct information they can be able to give because the Operation Control Center are trying to look at issues, how best they can address the situation. Is it going to be cancelled? If they are going to cancel, cancellation is the last option on every airline. Is the last option. So they always want to see, okay, can we bring this aircraft to operate? Can we delay the other side so that this one can operate? Or how do we transport the engineers and all these things? So there are a lot of issues that they need to look into before they will now tell you at the last thing that, okay, we are going to cancel. Now, when you cancel, obviously you need to refund the passengers. The law says refund immediately and also compensate them with maybe 35% of their next travel. Some of the airlines even go above what the NCA recommended. Sometimes they will give you 100%. They will just because to tell you that it is. But the airlines do compensate passengers.
Okay.
But at that time, the passengers, all they want is They want to reach their destination. They are not after the compensation.
Okay,
That's where the problem is.
Okay, Mr. Booker, I don't know if Mr. Yayi agrees with that aspect, because earlier you mentioned infrastructure gap. Now that communication and that cancellation happens too often. If it's beyond the control of the airline or the last option, why are the airline operators not, looking at a permanent solution? We're not saying these disruptions or delays, it's going to be permanent, it's not going to happen. But there could be a way much better by being proactive and strengthening the system.
Okay, thank you. Again, you're bringing the ball back to the airline operators. I mean, I can say this for a fact. About 3.5 years ago, when there was an issue with fuel, the AON approached the National Assembly. The National Assembly summoned the then GMD and NNPC, and one of the solutions that was proposed was bringing online one of the refineries in the country to be able to produce jet fuel, which was a scarce commodity at the time, to produce jet fuel for local consumption. This is 3.5 years on. That has not happened. Now, let me take us back. In the last 2 months, particularly, airlines in the country have been hemorrhaging financially. And that has affected their performance in terms of on-time departures. And what is the cause of this? Fuel. In the last 70 days since the US-Israeli-Iran conflict, fuel price has doubled internationally. But in Nigeria, it has gone to 270% to 300%. Meanwhile, you will argue that we have a refinery in Nigeria, we're producing the fuel in Nigeria, how come the domestic airlines are paying much more? But that's the reality domestic airlines are faced with. As a matter of fact, in the first 50 days of this conflict, the domestic airlines lost over 150 billion naira in financial hemorrhaging. Why? If you assume that the cost of fuel in your direct operating expense for a flight is about 40%. If you increase that fuel cost 300%, it means that domestic airlines are already losing over 20% before takeoff. So what you have found in the last 2 months particularly is that domestic airlines have been selling tickets to buy fuel to operate flights. And they're not necessarily addressing all the other issues surrounding the operation of a safe flight. So it's going to come to a point, and I see this happening maybe in the not too distant future, that airlines will stop flying domestically.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, to let you understand the gravity of this, an airline in America that is well funded, Spirit Airlines, declared bankruptcy 2 days ago. And they were looking for a $3.5 billion injection from government. In the case of domestic airlines, we don't have that wherewithal. So what you see is domestic airlines losing all that money. That is their working capital. So how do we expect for them to continue to survive at some point?
Mr. Yayi, I know it's all about striking a balance, because the frustration on the air traveler is also overbearing. You agree with me? But we'll leave the conversation there. Of course, this is not an issue that ends here. Let's hope those involved, will do the needful. I want to thank you, Mr. Roland Yayi. He's an aviation expert. Thank you for coming on Weekend File. And also Mr. Hamzat Booker, airline consultant. Thank you so much for coming on Weekend File. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.